Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 435. I had the white pieces here and kicked off with d4, and my opponent played e6, a bit of an unusual move, but well, it's sometimes favored by players who want to play the either the French defense or the Dutch defense. You can play the Dutch after c4, you can play f5, and after e4 you can play d5. So you have a response to either of the main moves from white there. So it's kind of an interesting way to play. But my opponent has a different idea. I go e4, expecting the French defense, and instead he goes knight f6. So what we have here is something sort of like an Alechin's defense. I can push my e-pawn forward, chase his knight around. But it has some differences. One is that this square on e7 is available. Normally, in this position, the knight would go back to b6 because the black's pawn move is usually to put the pawn from d7 to d6 and leave this pawn on e6. That opens up the diagonal for the light squared bishop, and it puts tension on the center here. So this is just a different way to play and probably not as good. And because this bishop isn't coming out now that it's blocked by pawns, I decided to go for the four pawns attack. This is a way of playing against the Alechin's defense. It's pretty aggressive. You can play it against the normal lines, but you do have to worry about the influence that black can get over these squares in the center. What's happened is that in the interior, behind the pawns, these squares have become weak. They have to be defended by my pieces because there are no pawns that can protect those squares. And if black can find a way to exploit that sometimes is the key to his defense in these kind of defenses like the Alechin's. So that's something to keep in mind and keep an eye on that because something like that happens in the game. So let's go back to the notation tab. That's it for the opening book. He plays d5. And I don't react to this very well. I take it. And in retrospect, taking is just completely the wrong idea. If I take the pawn, he takes back with a knight, and I'm just helping him develop a piece and giving away a good square. So I should instead use this tempo to develop one of my pieces. Probably knight f3 is a good choice. Since I've pushed the f-pawn forward, I can guard this dark square, so if the knight moves, the queen can't come out with check. Guard these dark squares with the knight. So, and now if he wants to get his knight to d4, it'll take him two moves. First he'll have to take the pawn and say I take back, and then he can play knight to d5. I mean, this good outpost for the knight. It's still a good outpost, but you see that in the meantime I managed to develop two pieces. In the game right here, I take the pawn, he takes back with the knight, and he gets that good outpost, and I don't get any development at all. So you see the evaluation of the chess engine change from favorable to white to favorable to black, just like that. So a simple mistake, but it's pretty obvious in retrospect. Something to keep an eye on in your own games. You know, don't give away squares and give away development like that. Okay, knight f3, normal developing move, and now he goes bishop b4 check, and this one caught me off guard, I have to admit. In fact, after the bishop here, I was really worried that now my bishop is pinned and this f-pawn is undefended. But of course, if he takes the f-pawn, I can just take his bishop, so that's not really a threat. But he has a very interesting move, knight to e3, kicking my queen. And there's a lot of surprising tactics in this position having to do with the weaknesses in my position, particularly the c2 square and this e3 square with the knight. So just for example, if I were to play queen a4 check, trying to win this bishop over here, and he plays bishop d7, it's actually not safe for me to take the bishop. So if you want to pause the video here and treat this as a tactical quiz, what's wrong with queen takes bishop in this position? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. If I take the bishop, it's knight c2 check, wins the whole queen, so that's not a good trade for me. It's good for black. So anyway, the best move here is queen to b3, not with the idea of taking the bishop, but just getting away from the knight and also threatening to take the knight and chase it away. So that would be a good play. I played queen c1, not too bad, but now he could keep an advantage with knight c6. Instead he retreats his knight to d5. And I managed to retain an advantage here with knight c3. I managed to develop another piece. I unpinned my bishop so my squares are protected in the interior. And I'm feeling okay about my position now. He plays c5, trying to undermine the center, an interesting way to play. But now I can actually win a pawn here. I didn't see this idea. But, well, let's play the first few moves. I played this correctly. Knight takes. He throws in this check because otherwise his bishop is going to be hanging. I take with the queen. And then he takes back with the pawn. And now, right now, I could actually grab the pawn on c5, and it's not safe for his queen to take it. So this is your second tactical quiz in this game. Imagine I took the pawn, and he played queen takes c5. What's my tactic in that situation? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. It's rook to c1. Rook to c1 is a great skewer. So let's just put it on the board. Say I take. If he trades queens, then I get to keep the extra pawn. So he grabs the extra pawn, and in doing so, he's going to lose. He's going to lose his bishop. His bishop is sitting on his back rank. It should normally be safe, but he hasn't castled yet, so that bishop is completely loose on the back rank. So pretty interesting tactical sequences here. Well, little tactics behind the scenes, and I was kind of oblivious to these actually. Bishop to e2, not my finest game. He plays c4, and once again, actually, I can just take this pawn. This pawn is really just hanging here because it's defended by the tactical trick of rook c1. So I did notice that. I castled. He plays b5, defending the pawn. But after b5, there's now some new tactics that pop up, having to do with this diagonal, which, as you can see, is weak, and it's something I eventually spot. I think on move 22 I finally spot this idea and play the tactic. But it was sitting here in the position already. I can play the move knight to g5 right here, threatening bishop to f3 and winning a piece. So, and it's not so easy for him to defend. Maybe say knight to f3 to try and have something in the way. Then bishop to f3. So at least I get some development. The queen drops back to d7, defending the knight. And now pushing on with d5. So it looks like, yeah, I get a real strong position here with these advanced pawns, advanced knight, all my pieces active. Just the rook needs to come into the game on one of these files. And looks like I'm really crashing through here. Let's see, it says the knight has to go back to d8, which you know is a bad sign. And then rook f to d1. Let's take a look at that. Knight to d8. How about rook a to d1? Yeah, I'd probably bring the a rook over. Yeah, they're about the same. Some rook on the d file, threatening to just open things up while he hasn't castled yet, and I'm just breaking through. So pretty interesting way to play, starting with knight g5 and threatening that bishop f3 move. Anyway, I continue with normal development, which is not bad. It's just that I had better here, and in these situations, it's on for a few moves here. I just have completely missed this idea. I play rook c3. I'm trying to double on the c file, maybe undermine these pawns with the move like b3. He plays a5, trying to counterattack on the queen side here. But well, this is no good. I can immediately undermine it with a4. And if it weren't for this knight g5 idea, a4 you see is also a good move. Knight g5 or knight h4, but a4 is a nice move to undermine these pawns. He plays bishop a6, defending. But, well, I can just take. Bishop takes. And now he's just got these weak pawns that I can scoop up. I start with rook f to c1. Once again, knight g5. Okay, he plays knight to b6 here, trying to hold on to things. I go queen e3. And now he castles. And at this point, I play knight d2. And so finally I'm in a position to threaten bishop to f3. I think I'd spotted this idea. And now he just needs to move this rook. He needs to play rook a to d8. And we have basically an even position. He's got some weaknesses over here, which I will try and exploit. But he could hold on in this game. So instead he moved the f rook to c8. And that allows me to play this tactic. And queen drops back to d8. I grab the rook, and after he takes back, he immediately has this counter threat of knight d5 because his queen has just vacated that d5 square, which forks my queen and my rook. So he can win the exchange right back, so I should really take care. And once again, I ignored that, and I didn't even notice it. I was I thought this was a great square for my knight, which it is. But of course, he has this move knight d5, and he can win the exchange back, and it would be a long game. Instead, he played queen d5, getting his queen back where it was, and now that threat disappears, and I just have a good position here with knight d6. So I think from here on, it's pretty smooth sailing. He drops back to c6 to threaten checkmate. I noticed this one. I play queen f2, holding on to things. He goes bishop back to b5, a little bit of maneuvering. I put my rook on d1. I wanted to free up my queen, so I wanted to protect the d-pawn. He plays a4 here. And I push on with f5. I wanted to be able to retake potentially with the queen here and leave the knight on c6 or d6 and get pressure against f7 with the queen and the knight. So that was my plan. He pushes on with a3. And I throw in, I just take it. Okay, I can take this off. He takes, I take. And now I play... it's his turn. He plays bishop a4, hitting my rook. And now I throw in this move, f takes e6. This is an intermediate move I can throw in. I could have played it sooner, too, because it threatens a really devastating check. Now that his rook is off the back rank, it's even a mate. It's a check and then mate. So queen takes e6. He has to respond to that threat. Now rook to b1. And I want my rook to get into the back rank here somehow. But he blocks it very nicely with bishop to b3. So even though I'm winning, it takes a bit of maneuvering to try and figure out how to break through. I try queen e2 here. He goes queen back to d5. And I bring my queen up to e4. This was one of the ideas with queen e2, getting on the light squares and trying to get into his position somehow. The other idea maybe was to come here. But when I saw his queen here, I realized I could threaten the trade. The trade works out to my advantage because the endgame with the rook versus the bishop is going to be good for me, and I have a passed pawn as well. 2 passed pawns, actually. So he doesn't want the trade. This is the correct decision. He moves the queen to a5. But now I do find the best move here, at least. I bring my queen in, this is what I'd been thinking, and get to the back rank and start to threaten to come in here. And, of course, he has to deal with that. He's got a serious problem, so he's forced to play a move like h6 check so he doesn't get mated. But now there was the double threat. I was also threatening on f7. Chasing the king to h8. Cancel that. The king went to h8. And now I bring the knight in. And there's no way to stop mate. Actually, after queen b7, I think there was a forced mate in 5, so he didn't have any real defense from that point. So an interesting game, kind of a surprising number of tactics that went by unnoticed in the early part of the game. So makes a good game for playing Guess the Tactic anyway. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon.